Alrighty, my name is Shane Foster. Thank you very much for attending today's Gannon SBDC seminar on product market fit. A little bit about myself. Over the past 6 years, I've been a senior business consultant here at Gannon SBDC. Throughout my career, I've worked with over 1,000 different businesses in hundreds of different sectors. And prior to joining the SBDC, I had my own marketing company where I was lucky enough to build it up after 5 years and sell it off. I'm really excited about today's event because product market fit is extremely important. It's a key driver in success for small businesses, but it's also one of the hardest ways to pretty much generate, one of the hardest ways to really kind of get there. So today what we're going to be talking about is what exactly is product market fit? How can you understand your market? What's the steps in developing your product? How do you measure product market fit? How do you achieve market fit? And then strategies to attain product market fit. And then we're going to go over a few examples, but last but not least, we are always going to have time for Q&A session. So right now, the only way to communicate is via chat. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If I'm unable to kind of take a look at it, I will save some time at the end to kind of go through it. So nonetheless, according to the latest data, 90% of startups will fail. So let's really analyze that and understand how critical that stat actually is. 9 out of 10 businesses that try to start up tend to fail. Now, there are tons of reasons on why small businesses fail. But what in your mind you think is the biggest reason small businesses fail? Do you think it's maybe capital, maybe just a lack of the management experience? But would you be surprised to find out that the majority of businesses fail because they don't have product market fit? The lack of product market fit is the biggest driver on why businesses fail. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Shane, what exactly is product market fit? But before we jump into that, just understand that 34% of businesses fail because of that lack of product market fit. 22% of them fail because they didn't have the right marketing strategies to educate their consumer. And then 18% of the startups fail really because of team problems and related issues. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about this key slide here. I really feel that product market fit and messaging are really one and the same at the end of the day. So if you're unable to really communicate the value proposition you have on your business to your customer, that means you probably have poor product market fit. All right. So really understand the key to winning business is find your product market fit before you run out of money. That's really what we're trying to achieve today, is to really find out that product market fit and really get there. But also remember that pivoting, a lot of times people talk about pivoting and they really feel that it's another term for failure and it doesn't work. But if you look at the successful companies, 44% of founders who pivoted became successful. So what is product market fit? Product market fit at the end of the day is finding a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. Let's spend a few moments and break that down. At the end of the day, the goal of a business is to solve a problem. All right. So if you're here today and you want to be a business owner, you need to solve problems. That is how you become successful. When I ask you what your product is and you're like, well, we have this cool widget that can, go to the moon and collect data and do yada, yada, yada. I don't care. Your customers don't care. What you need to be able to do is convey how you solve people's problems. People buy on for two reasons. When I spend my money on a product, I'm looking for it to do two things. Number one, solve a problem, or two, fill an emotional need. If your product can't do those two things, you don't have a business. And remember, the core principle of a business is to make money. So what we're trying to achieve today, this is the most important thing if you're going to learn anything out of today, is understand that the $0 to $1 million in sales is basically the startup phase. That's the hardest phase in business, but it's the most simplest phase in business. And why do I say it's the most simplest? Because really, if you are trying to find product market fit and to create a business, you really just need a few things. The first thing is you need a product that solves a problem, right? You need a product that solves a problem. Number two, you need somebody to buy that product, which is an avatar, which is a customer, all right? So now we have a product that somebody wants to buy, right? Now the next hurdle in all of product market fit is marketing, messaging. So you need to have a product that somebody wants to buy, that I can find a channel of where that person is and market to them to buy it. And it's just a cycle in all of this. Now, you might be sitting there, you're probably really excited. You're like, Shane, that's 3 easy steps. I can do that. There's no doubt in my mind. But here's what I'm going to tell you. It is extremely difficult because at the end of the day, you don't know what you just don't know. So what we find out a lot of times is, you're on this seminar today, you're probably consuming other more info. At the end of the day, how can you decipher what's true and what's not true? Well, that's your job as an entrepreneur. You kind of have to weed through all the noise and really find that clear product market fit. So a lot of times the problem I find with entrepreneurs is they become too self-centered. You think you are your customer, but at the end of the day, nobody is going to be as passionate about your product or your baby as you are. And a lot of times you try to jam your product down the throat of a consumer and they just are not interested in it. The best entrepreneurs out there, they understand the consumer. They are what's called customer centric. You need to become so obsessed with your customers to the point where you feel like you know them. They're your best friends. You know what keeps them up at night. You're asking for feedback, but most importantly, you are speaking their language. This is why you need to understand the market you're getting into. If you're just kind of, hopping from industry to niche to niche, you're never going to get in the thick of it to learn enough about your product and about your industry to solve major problems. All you're going to do is you're just going to create a product, try to serve that industry, and when things kind of start to run into a tough niche, it's just not going to work. And you might be sitting here, you're going to say, well, there's a lot of competition in this product and in this market, Shane. Guess what? Welcome to the world of business. There is a ton of competition in everything we do. All right. And competition is a great sign. That means there's money to be made in that market. So I implore you, don't run or try to create a product that is running away from competition. What you need to do is you need to dive deep into that and just get a winner's mentality. That is what's going to help you find product market fit. So remember, you need to become customer centric. You need to know your customers inside and out. And I'm not talking about their first name basis. I'm talking, everything. You know what they eat for breakfast. You know where they hang out. You know the language they talk. You know the biggest pain points they have. When you have customer centricity, you're going to be a lot better off than the majority of your competition. So our goal again today is the answer to who, the what, and the how. Businesses in that $0 to $1 million revenue phase, they simply just need to figure out their product, the avatar, and their sales channel. All right. So today I'm hoping I kind of educate you enough that you can take away this framework and apply it to your business. So what are some examples of product market fit so you kind of understand what we're looking at? Well, one of the best ones I really feel is number 2 is understanding Netflix. Netflix, when they first came out, they wanted to compete with none other than Blockbuster. So people that are in the Gen Z and you're probably under 30, you might not know what Blockbuster was unless you drove through a shopping plaza and you see the remnants of the Blockbuster sign outside. But really, basically, what Netflix understood is that people didn't really want to go to the movie store. So you would go to Blockbuster, you would rent a movie, and be due back by Monday. Let me tell you, I can tell you from personal experience, you forgot to return it, and that $2.99 rental turned into like $30. I honestly think I still owe Blockbuster money at the end of the day. But nonetheless, Netflix came along and they were like, "Hey, what if instead of you coming to a store, you just go online and tell us which movies you want to rent, and we'll send them to your door. And if you watch them, great. If you don't, you can send it back, and it's only a subscription fee." So Netflix was a major competitor of Blockbuster. But what they noticed is that the market was starting to pivot. They thought to themselves, instead of making people wait for the content, why can't we just put it on demand? And that's how Netflix really became a pioneer in today's market. So they understood that their initial business model was, hey, we're going to kind of make it a frictionless environment for you to get these movies to watch them. But there's still a major challenge because you're waiting for the DVDs to come. You're forgetting to watch the DVDs. Asking the mailman to return them is still hard. What if we just make it frictionless and let people watch the content on demand? And that's really how Netflix was kind of born today. But you need to understand the big takeaway from this is Netflix didn't just go into streaming. There was a whole thought process of understanding the consumer beforehand. And the majority of my clients and the majority of the startups you're going to work with, your MVP, your minimum viable product, is going to be nowhere near what gains you that traction. But you have to start somewhere and understand the market demands. So how do we actually start building our product? Well, the problem is right now, you just have an idea, and ideas are really free flowing. You think you might be able to solve a problem, and you're trying to apply that problem to a specific target audience, but you just don't know enough about that person. And another challenge you're running into right now is, how do I know I'm solving a big enough problem for somebody to pay me? And what do I mean by that? How many times, we face thousands of problems throughout our day, right? But sometimes they're just minute problems, right? Maybe, for lack of a better term, maybe a problem I have is, something with my belt. Maybe the belt really doesn't latch on right. Is that a big enough problem for me to spend $10,000 on to replace my belt? Probably not. So you really need to understand there's that scale. The bigger the problem you can solve, the more money you can make. There's why there's billion-dollar companies out there like HubSpot, Salesforce, these CRMs, because they solve major problems. Those softwares are basically the brain, the heart of people's businesses. So they're able to charge big time money because they solve big time problems. So you need to ask yourself, does my business solve a big enough problem that somebody is going to pay me for it? All right. So the biggest takeaway you need to understand about finding the problem is the worst thing you can do is go bottom up. And what do I mean by bottom up approach? Means a lot of engineers, I see them do this all the time. Engineers are amazing at developing products. They are so good that their brain is so wired to create products. But the problem that they have is they create a product that they're super excited about, and then they have to take that product and go apply it to markets. Why would you do that? You need to be bottom down approach. You need to go and find a good market, and a good market is really defined as a market that is growing in substantial size. There's tons of capital being thrown around. There's enough consumer demand. There's enough demand. There's a lot of companies in there, and you need to solve a problem in that market. Excuse me. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a market, and then we're trying to find a problem we can solve in that market. Then once we identify that problem, we create the solution behind it. All right. So what we're not doing, excuse me, is we're not going to build a piece of software and then try to find where that product can fit. What we're going to do is the smart way is we're going to go find a problem in a big market and then solve that. Because when we can do that, we know without a shadow of a doubt, our chances of failure probably aren't going to happen. If we know that there's demand and I can fill that demand, good things are going to happen. And that's how you find product market fit. So what's a good example of, trying to reinvent the wheel that doesn't need to be reinvented? So how many times do you go out, you see a market and you're trying to solve a problem, but you really don't understand there's already a solution out there? So I'll give you this great example. During the space battle between the U.S., NASA, and Russia space, when everybody's trying to go to the moon and everything, what they found out, that the astronauts found out, is you couldn't take a pen because there was no gravity. You couldn't write in space with a pen. So the U.S. was like, man, this is a big problem. We need to solve it. How can our astronauts write in space with a pen? So they ended up spending $1 million on research and development. And basically all it came, and they created this gravity space pen, and it, allowed you to write in space. And the Russians, to their credit, basically came out and were like, why don't we just use pencils? And the pencil solved that problem. So at the end of the day, sometimes reinventing the wheel is not finding product market fit, but really maybe applying an already existing product to that market might mean product market fit. So in one on, it was a big joke. They actually sold the Russians actually sold the Russian space pen in their gift shops, kind of as a knock on the US. But you need to understand this as a business concept of sometimes like trying to reinvent the wheel or trying to improve a product that's already out there. You have to ask yourself, is somebody really going to buy this product? So the first thing we need to do is identifying our target market. This is that who. So how do we do that? Well, again, you need to become customer centric. You need to get out there and talk to people. I will tell you, this is the one phase where people just skip over, and it drives me up a wall, because you need to spend a month and you need to become obsessed with the data and going out there and talking to people. Now, talking to people is different from you pitching your product or your solution, but it's getting out there and having friendly conversations, asking them, hey, what keeps you up at night? Oh, okay, you're using this product. What don't you like about this product? How hard was it for your team to buy in on this product? What kind of solutions would you create to build that product? When you can kind of do what's called customer discovery and have these conversations, great things can happen. And there's a few ways to do this. I always call this the walk, the crawl. The crawl, the walk, the run phase. So the crawl phase is really just you getting out. Maybe you go on a Reddit forum, a Facebook group, and you just kind of post your question that just kind of get some data and survey to maybe synthesize your assumptions. Because remember, you're kind of like a scientist when you're starting a business. You're making a hypothesis, and you need to kind of test it without actually, blowing your lab up at the end of the day. So really, the crawl phase is you maybe going out there. Say we sell a new baby bottle, right? It's a great baby bottle. Maybe we go to a mom's Facebook and we just ask about their challenges with current baby bottles. What don't you like about it? What's the hardest thing about it? Yada yada. And you kind of get that data. The second phase in this is really when you start to do some customer discoveries. And a lot of times, this is where people stop, and this is the biggest mistake. Because your idea of customer discoveries is you go to your mom, you go to your cousin, you go to Sally, and you ask her about how great your business idea. And this is the cheerleaders. Cheerleaders are galore. I can throw a stone and I guarantee I'll hit a cheerleader. But the problem with cheerleaders is they see you going off the cliff, and they still are going to keep cheering you because they don't have the backbone to really hurt your feelings. And you got to avoid these kind of people, because what they're going to do is they're going to hype you up. They're going to make you feel really good and tell you how special you are, because come Thanksgiving, they don't want to sit down and look at you and feel like there's some confrontation because they killed your dreams. Sometimes about surrounding yourself with the right business people is they tell you what you need to hear, not what you want. They tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So the problem with kind of doing your circle of customer interviews is the data is going to be wasted. They're going to tell you how great your product is. The best way for you to get actual customer data is you talk to complete strangers. You go out and you find industry thought leaders. So if we were going to apply that same concept of the baby bottles to moms, if I went out and I found a mom influencer who had 50,000 followers, she knows all the products that are within that industry, and I pay her for her time, I'm going to get a lot better data back from her than I would with just, Joe, who I'm having a beer with, who has like 4 kids, but he doesn't actually feed his kids. So that's what I'm trying to get to you today. And understand this. Some of if you ever work with like a large consulting company like McKinsey, the Big Four, they have subject matter experts on hand who will write reports up and tell you this. I will tell you right now, the most cases, that 20-year-old kid who's the defense expert most likely was not in the Marines or in our military, but what he or she did is they went out and they found that 5-star general and they asked that person all of the right questions. And guess what? When you do things like that, you're going to have a lot better success than anything you can do. So what I would encourage you today, before we create a product and we start jumping around, trying to sell the product, create a landing page, spend a good amount of time. When I say good amount of time, I'm talking months. All right. We got our entire life to do this. All right. This is a fine line. Spend a few months getting out there, talking to people and asking the right questions. Find industry thought leaders. This is some of the best money you can spend. I would rather you spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 getting market research than you spend $150,000 on a product that isn't going to go nowhere. All right. Major companies do this all the time. You just have little small bets and you go out there and you're trying to get as much data as possible. Now, I don't want you to spend 2-3 years doing market research. That's a waste of time. Again, spend 6 weeks, 8 weeks while you're still kind of, in the prototype phase. That's what we're trying to do today. So remember, the importance of really finding your target market is empathy. You need to understand your customers. So again, like Mr. Rogers says, you need to put yourself in your customer's shoes. And when you do that, you're going to have really good success. But one thing we need to understand today is, and a lot of times people fall so in love with their product, they think everybody is going to love their product. And the fact of the matter is, not everyone is your customer. One of the things you need to figure out is, how can I niche down? The further you can niche down and serve a segment, the way better off you're going to be. Let me ask you this today. If you needed heart surgery, would you go to a general doctor who might know how to fix your heart? Or would you want to go to a doctor where this is his 100th time doing this procedure this month? His success rate's 97%. And yes, he's going to charge me a lot more, but I know he's going to solve my problem. I don't think really a lot of people, unless they're crazy, would choose the general doctor. And it's the same principle in business. If you were going to be a consultant, a marketer, and you're just trying to start out, you need to narrow yourself down. You need to be super, super specific. I mean, I'm not saying we need to be so specific that like we eliminate everybody, but we need to just generalize down. What do I mean by that? If I was going to be a marketing company, should I be a gym marketing company? Should I be a dentist? Should I be a chiropractor? Should I be in this? No, you need to pick one. You need to pick one niche and really narrow it down. All right. And that's what you need to understand. Not everybody is going to be your customer. So why should we narrow our target market down? Well, at the end of the day, it builds a stronger brand identity. It allows us to improve the product development. I bring up the idea of a dentist versus a chiropractor. They're both doctors at the end of the day, but I guarantee you a dentist has way different needs for getting patients than a chiropractor does. It's just night and day at the end of the day. And their patients they talk to, the language they use, completely different. but it does give you that competitive advantage. I already brought a competitive advantage up. When you are only specific to that industry, you are able to speak their language and it builds authoritative trust. But it also lets you get that deeper understanding, and it also reduces competition. All right. How many, if I can throw a stone again, and I'll probably hit a marketer along with in somebody doing marketing, but how many marketers are out there that only work with dentists who do 5 million, who have 10 different offices? That person is going to be able to get me better results if I was a dentist than just some generalist person who bounces from industry to industry. But again, it comes down to being able to communicate your value to them way better because you can talk their language. So this is a great example of why niching down is so powerful. So when we talk about a product, say I create a widget that allows you, it's a time management guide. Well, if I wanted to target the entire US market who might need help with time management, I could probably only charge $19 for this. I mean, I go to Walmart, there's tons of time management books out there. I can go on Etsy. There's, PDFs I can download. But let's say if I wanted to niche down even more. So I wanted to just target sales professionals, right? Now I'm down into an industry. Sales professionals could be car salesmen, can be SaaS providers, can be, anybody who sells that calls them a sales professionals. And I tailor my product to that person. I could probably charge $100 now, right? There's some value to that person. But now, what if I just wanted to even dive down even deeper? And I'm going to do time management for people who only do outbound sales because that's an own segment. I could probably charge even more. So think about it. If I went to somebody who does outbound sales and I ask them, hey, here's this planner. It's going to help you 10x your game. It's $500. They're probably going to say I'm in. But now, what if I can do a time management software for outbound B2B people and I also add power tools and just power tools and grinding sales reps. So I can go to DeWalt, I can go to Honda and just work with their sales reps, and I can guarantee a 20x return. If you use my calendar, I can now charge a lot more. So I want you to take away that narrowing your target down audience is great, but the more narrow you can get, the better off you can be. I'll give you one more quick example of this. Say I'm going to offer personal training for personal training, right? I'm a personal trainer. So I'm going to offer personal training. There's tons of personal trainers out there. You go to the Y, hundreds of them, $50 a month, right? Well, now what if I say I'm only going to do personal training for females because they have their own certain needs. Now I kind of pivot myself a little bit and created a little bit of an authoritative side. I could probably charge, $200 a month. Well, what if I say, the needs of a professional woman who works 80 hours a week and somebody in their 20s are completely different? Now I narrow it down more and I create 20-minute workouts for them, give them a meal plan because I know they don't have a lot of time to cook and I'm making their life super easy. I can now charge way more than just a general trainer. That's what you need to take away from when you're figuring out your product market segments today. So understand the difference between market segments and personas. Personas at the end of the day are buyers. Buyers, you can, like I said, you can have different market segments where we talk about the demographics, the behavioral issues, and how they're going to use the product. To give you an example of this, you look at Old Spice. Old Spice is a predominant deodorant in the male category, but they have different marketing tactics for a younger audience versus an older audience. A young professional male in his 30s, 40s does not want to smell like Axe body spray. Anybody who goes into the office and you get overpowered by that cologne, I don't want that. But I'm sure, in the young teenager phase where, they feel like they need to smell good all the time, that's their own buyer persona. The reason why that person buys and this person buys completely different. But what I would tell you, it's Old Spice is a billion dollar brand. So they have marketing dollars that they can attribute to each of those. You need to just tackle one for now. And then once you really meet the apex of that market and you have total dominance in that buyer persona, then you can look about applying to different buying personas and markets. Right. So if you haven't done this already, this is what's called a buyer persona. This is kind of one of these things that should be in your marketing plan. Basically, it talks about your average buyer and who you want to target. So it talks about the demographics, the hobbies, the challenge, the pain points, the fears in communication channels. So the more info, if you haven't done this, there's tons of free guides online and YouTube. Go out there and have some fun with this. Really work on this and try to create a good buyer persona. And this is huge. Anytime any large company launches a marketing campaign, it's required that they do this. It is 100% required that they do this. Because if you don't know how to talk and you don't know where that person is, you're going to get lost. Remember, the key of marketing is all about attention and what has people's attention. I will tell you right now where people are at, the way like a young demographic is obtaining content, they're not watching TV. So if you're trying to target kids like 16 to 22, they're not watching TV. I guarantee you they don't watch TV. What they're doing is they're on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and you might think Snapchat, but you'll be really surprised. So you got to get out there and understand your customer. So we talked about how to conduct market research, customer surveys, interviews, but we really need to do a deep dive in our competitor analysis. You need to know your competition inside and out. One of the things you can do is I'm going to say you can hack their system, but you're not actually hacking their system, but you pose yourself as a customer. You should sign up for all their emails. If you create a fake account, sign up for all their email accounts, like all their pages, follow them, and just look at the way they're conducting themselves and the way they're getting interaction from customers. It's a great way for you. But you also need to understand their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats. If you're trying to build another Amazon and you have no money, good luck. It's just something you got to understand. Look, I would love to build a rocket ship today and be the next Tesla or whatever his Elon Musk's other, X, whatever his Space Force is. Guess what? I have no skill set yet. I don't have the means to even remotely compete with him. So why would I go out there and try doing that? So you really need to do a strong competitor analysis and understand what they're good at, what they're not good at, and where you can penetrate the market and find your own little niche. So sample discovery questions you're going to ask, what problem are you trying to solve with this? How are you currently addressing this problem? What solution to this problem would look like to you? And how would you prefer to purchase this solution? A lot of times people miss the way that their sales channel. How many times do I want to pick up the phone? This is a good example for local restaurants right now. If you make me pick up the phone and call your staff, there's a high anxiety for the majority of people that go through that. And it's not that I don't want to talk to a person. It's just I feel like there's going to be a miscommunication and you're going to mess my order up. I would much rather go online, pick and choose exactly how I want it, and have clear communication. But to give you a retrospect of how some companies who don't follow this, and I'm okay. I really don't care, and I'm not being critical. But if you ever use Jersey Mike's, they're becoming one of the fastest growing franchises out there. If you ever use Jersey Mike's online ordering platform, it is terrible. You cannot make changes. It is very cookie cutter. I mean, adding like lettuce to a certain sandwich, they don't even give you the option. So your only option is to actually walk into the physical store and wait 30 minutes for them to cook your meal for you. So you got to understand, how do people want to purchase my solution And what you're trying to do is create a frictionless environment. That's why Amazon is so good at what they do, is because they create a frictionless environment. So if you're a small business owner and you're trying to compete with Amazon, look, you can complain as much as you want, and you can run around and say, you can guilt me into buying this product. Look, at the end of the day, whoever has the best product and can deliver it the fastest is going to win. And most consumers don't care if you're small or a billion-dollar company. They want to make things easy. All right. So your job is, if you want to compete with them, you need to make it frictionless. You need to become customer centric. How many times today have I just said customer centric? You need to understand the consumer. You need to be consumer first and build a better platform that way. So when we are looking at a competitive landscape, this is a great thing for you to do. Talk about the key high important points for your consumers and build your competitive advantage through that. So now that we have a product, now that we have a market, who we have, now that we have a market, we identified a problem, now we need to build our MVP product, our minimum viable product. So what we're going to cover right now is, let's talk about product development and refinement with the ready rate, how the improvement process looks like, and how do we actually get customer feedback. All right. Understand this: before you launch today, sometimes you're going to be asked to write a business plan, and you might have been asked to do a business model canvas. Understand, a business plan is more of the step-by-step professional document that's going to take sometimes weeks, if not months, to develop. And for a business, you really don't know if it's going to fit. I always encourage my startups to do a business model canvas first, because that is going to marry the product with the solution and build it together. And it's something that can be completed within an hour, as compared to a business plan where it's a full-fledged 12-page document. Now, I'm not saying you should not write a business plan. I'm just saying at different stages of business, there's different tools that you need to employ, and sometimes you can use the wrong tool. So if you're a pure startup, you're just trying to find product market fit, I would encourage you to do a business model canvas first, then build out the business plan. Now, a business plan, if you're going to go to investors or a bank, it is required. But if you're not at that point where you're seeking capital, the business model canvas is way better for you. So this is a really simple business model canvas. This is a whole different entire presentation in itself. But if you haven't done something like this, I'd encourage you to do it. What we are trying to do is we're focusing on our value proposition in our customer, our problems in our customer solutions, and they all come together. And that's what forms product market fit. All right. So what does the building phase of a product look? Right now, you're in the idea generation. Now we're going to go out and screen the idea. Now we're going to build a proof of concept of it. You see car companies do that all the time. They build like a giant car out of wax just to kind of prove their concept. And then they think about marketing strategies, like how can we sell this product? And then they analyze it to determine product market fit, like how profitable can this business actually be? They've done financial projections, modeling out there. Like, if you build a $10 million business, but, you're only going to make $5 off of it, it's not really a good, probably, business at the end of the day. And that's really a step a lot of people miss. And then they test the business. And then, what you're trying to do in this phase, and this is really important, your minimum viable product, we are trying to get it to market as fast as possible and as cheap as possible. There's a saying out there that if you are not embarrassed by your first product, you probably waited too long to launch it. And here's why this is really important. Speed is key. I know earlier I said maybe take a little bit of time to make sure we do the right analysis and understand our customer. That's so true. But it's kind of like controlled chaos. We want to run as fast as possible without letting the train get off the track. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this product as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, because what you think your client wants is absolutely not true. So all we're trying to do is get a product in our clients' hands, get feedback on them, and then go into version 2. But we're trying to not really make one huge bet. So many companies I've seen, basically they want all in on their MVP product, and for a lack of a better term, it didn't sell for whatever reason. So if you only budgeted 300 grand and you bought 300,000 worth of products and only 50,000 of them sold, and out of the 50,000, the feedback came back and said, "Hey, this strap sucks. You know, I would never use this bag because it hurts my back." Well, now you have to take that data and develop a product too. But what happens if you want all in on product 1 and it failed? So you got to be conscientious of this and not do that. So your minimum viable product, again, it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to suck. I don't care. All I want to do is to get it in the hands of consumers and get feedback. All right. And what happens if it sucks so bad, Shane? Everybody wants their money back. Give them their money back. All right. At the end of the day, give them their money back. You need to make small bets. Business is all a game. It's all a game of making 1,000 small bets and just hope one of them pays off big. But a lot of times entrepreneurs make one huge bet, they go all in on it. Guess what happens? They fail. So you really want to create a small product that it doesn't need all the bells and whistles. It just needs to solve the core problem. So if I'm creating a new baby bottle that's healthier for the kids because it doesn't allow them to drink the milk as fast, that's my core product. Well, what happens if consumers come back and they say they want an internal component where it cleans the bottle themselves? Look, that's not the minimum viable product right now. The minimum viable product was we created a bottle that helped babies, that made babies healthier because it didn't allow them to drink the milk as fast. All right. Don't stray away from the core problem we are solving when you're creating your minimum viable product. All right. So a lot of times people think creating a minimum viable product looks like up top. You know, we're trying to build a car. So we have a wheel and then we build the foundation of the wheel. Then we build something that kind of looks okay. And now we have our nice sedan that we want to sell. Well, that's not really the case for product market fit. Product market fit is I'm trying to help people get from point A to point B in this solution, right? So I can build a car or I can build a skateboard. Well, people said, "Hey, Shane, I don't know how to skateboard because I don't have good ability. I don't have good balance." I'm like, "Perfect. I got another solution I can build for you. I can build you a scooter." And people are like, "Well, you know, the scooter is nice. There's some balance on it, but it's too slow, hurting my legs." I'm like, "All right, well, I can build a bicycle." "Well, Shane, you know, the bicycle is great. It is getting me from point A to point B, but it's way too slow." I'm like, "All right, well, how can I improve that? Let's build a motorcycle," right? Now I'm getting you to point A to point B super fast. And now you come back and you're like, "Hey, you know, it would be cool if I could transport my kids in this device." Now I built the car. So what I just tried showing you is like, it's not as simple as going from point A to point B in product market fit. There's different versions of your product, right? But a lot of times you go all in trying to build maybe that skateboard, and that's not the best product. So you're just trying to improve it over time. One of the things you need to do is really get your product inside the hands of customers, not your friends and family. So what do I mean by that? If after you get your patent and you build 10 to 15 different prototypes, and just give your product out to thought leaders, let them beat it up, let them use it, and then you're going to ask and get some feedback on the product. Then you're going to ask like, "Hey, how satisfied were you with your experience today in this product?" If you're really not sure and you're not comfortable with doing this, there are service providers out there who help you do focus groups and everything. Honestly, it's something you can do yourself. But if you're shy of people and you have a good budget, knock yourself out. Go ahead and hire a focus group company to help you get the product market fit. Now, the reason why this is really important is because let's reference that slide, that one of those first few slides. So many of us put our hands over our eyes and we become so in love with our product that sometimes it becomes a glaring problem that isn't obvious to us. What does that really mean? Say I create a video game company, right? And, a video game console. And I think it's amazing. It solves a problem. But what happens if consumers are like, look, putting this disc in is super hard, and I had to do it like 15 times, and it just wouldn't work. And you're like, uh-oh, but it works for me because I do XYZ. And they're like, why would I do XYZ? That's not like thought out. That's when you know, okay, this is a component of that I have to fix. So really, we're in that early stage. We have a proof of concept. We're just trying to get our product out to hands, and then maybe we come back and reiterate it one more time. Then we go to market with it. So again, a minimum viable product is something that's super minimum, bare bones, that has viability. They kind of come together, and that's what creates an MVP product. So how do we actually monitor if we have product market fit? Well, there's certain KPIs, key performance indicators, that we want to look at. Then we're going to look at quantitative and qualitative data. And then one of the best things you can do is what's called an NPS, a Net Promoter Score. So a Net Promoter Score is you sending a survey out and you ask your clients, hey, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend our product to a friend or colleague? If the score is really below 7, you know there's a massive problem. But another way for you to look at the data is how many referrals do I get from users? Think about it this way. Have you ever bought a product that you were like, it was okay, kind of solved my problem, wasn't that great? But did you ever go out there with that product and you sung to high heaven about how amazing it was and how great it was? And you told all your friends and family, you were like, Joe, man, I bought this product. It was okay. It was all right. Yeah, it kind of did this. I thought it was going to do that, but it didn't. No. So one of the things internally you need to look at your data is what percentage of my customers are coming from referrals. That's when you know you have product market fit. If nobody's out there talking about your product, and they've already bought it, it's because your product probably sucks and nobody wants to tell you about it. People inherently are non-confrontational. So you don't want to kill people's dreams unless you're really mad. So you need to kind of extract that data from them. I know it's going to be hard to take, but I'd rather you hear that truth and be able to fix the problem than us kind of continue down and waste tons of money and years of our life. All right. So Net Promoter Score is an easy way to do this. Customer satisfaction surveys, asking them about the features, the ease of use, really just try to gain as much data as possible. But again, talk to your customers. And if they don't want to answer, incentivize them. Offer a free trip. If you have a list of 500 people who bought from you, and maybe you put together a $500 gift basket, you say, hey, whoever answers this question, does the survey for me, we're going to draw a monthly contest for this gift basket. Again, sometimes people don't want to take the time to answer your products and questions because they're busy. But if you can incentivize them, it's some of the best things you can do for your business. Another thing we want to look at is the actual quantitative data. We're going to look at usage and engagement metrics. So if we're building a website, some of the things we might look at is like active users. So how many people are using our product and retention rate. Why is this good? So if you're building a SaaS product, and if you've ever watched the show Silicon Valley, awesome show. If you've never watched it before, great entrepreneurial show. It's on HBO. It's kind of, last episode was like 2-3 years ago, but it's really funny, awesome show. And there's a point what they did is they launched their product. They launched their MVP product, and they had a massive amount of downloads. And they were celebrating. They're like, yes, we're awesome. This is going great. And then finally, one of their engineers was like, hey, we have 1 million downloads. But our daily active users, people who are actually opening up the app and using it, is like 10 people per day. And they're like, uh-oh, this is a problem. So what they do is they went to the focus group, and what they found out was there is a huge educational component that like the average user just didn't have. So like they were uncomfortable putting their data in the cloud because they didn't know where it was going to be. So it sounds silly that, yeah, they built a better mousetrap, but people were scared to use that mousetrap because it required an educational component. So these are metrics that are case by case scenario that you have to monitor, but it helps us determine if we have product market fit. So we talked about customer feedback, using the stories, getting testimonies. These are powerful social proof that provide market feedback. But at the end of the day, it's all about traction. Product market fit is measured by people voting with their wallet. If people are buying your product, you probably have product market fit. Then we look at the competitive analysis. We talked about where we're positioned in the market and how big of a market share we can actually get. Sometimes you might be profitable, but you don't have a strong market share. If it's a $1 billion industry, you're only making $50,000, you're not even on the scope of being a major player. Now, what you need to understand is there's this thing called total TAM, total addressable market. It's like how much money is in the market for you to capture. So if it's a $10 billion industry and you're like, I'm going to make all 10 billion, I'd say good luck. Most strong companies only get to 9 to 13% of market share. Now it's completely different. I mean, there are some markets where there are only 4 companies. SpaceX is an example. There's not a lot of rocket ship companies out there. So SpaceX definitely has a major controlling position inside of the market share. But this is a good way for you to understand product market fit as well. So another thing we need to understand is really trying to find that product market fit, maybe testing, doing an A/B split, A/B test, A/B testing with the products. So you're not really sure if this is a strong value proposition or if this is the strong value proposition. You can test this out. You can also create different different products to get them out there to really get that customer feedback. So again, it's all about feedback. Some of the things we want to look at is early adopter feedback. Some of your best customers are going to be people who buy first, because that means you are really solving a major problem for these people. Churn rate, if you have a really high churn rate, meaning people are jumping ship, that's a bad sign. Then we want to look at the customer lifetime value. Why is this important? Well, if I sell a software and people only use it for 3 months, there's a good sign that maybe there's a massive problem in that software, and I got to figure out how can I extend their lifetime value. So now it brings me to the next section when we talk about pivoting and perseverance decision. There are times where you're going to have to pivot, and there are times where you're just going to have to persevere. I mentioned this earlier that entrepreneurs tend to run away from challenges. They run away from digging deep and fighting through it. But you also have to have the awareness to understand that sometimes you're just going down a rough battle. What does that actually look like? Well, say if I had a taxi cab company and Uber came to town, and Uber is a much faster, better platform than what I can offer. Do I dig my heels in and just stay the way I'm trying to kind of find through that market, or do I pivot and maybe figure out, can I build a better Uber? That's what you need to kind of decide. The only person who can really answer this is the entrepreneur themselves. But you really have to be self-aware. Like a lot of times people, what they're trying to do is, again, you have shiny object syndrome, and you're jumping from, business idea to business idea to business idea, and basically you're not giving it enough time to marinate. Here's what I'm going to tell you. This is the best advice you're going to get today. Is your marketing company that works with dentists $1 million, potentially $1 billion business idea? Absolutely. Is your marketing company that works with physical therapists a million or $1 billion company? Absolutely. Is your marketing company that works just with, you know, primary care doctors a $1 billion company? Probably. Can you do, can you create a $1 billion company from servicing all three? Most likely not, because your bandwidth is super thin. And what you're going to do is you're going to spread yourself really thin on those, and you're not going to be able to really focus on the core problems, because each one of those industries has a mousetrap, has their own problem that needs to be solved. That's not like the other ones. So yeah, I can create a bunch of leads for a dentist, but what happens if he doesn't know how to close them? Or the physical therapist doesn't have the right people, the right staff to take on the demand. Those are way too different products. So you need to be self-aware and build products that solve that niche. All right. So understand there's different ways for you to pivot inside your business. There's the offer pivot. What does that look like? An offer pivot might be, and I'm sorry I'm using a lot of marketing references, but this is kind of the easiest industry because I lived it. An offer pivot might be, I sell marketing services, right? Okay, you pay me $1,000, I do your social media marketing. Well, you're paying me $1,000. I'm doing a lot of posts, but you're not getting a lot of customers. And at the end of the day, that's what you want, is customers. So an offer pivot might be, instead of me saying I sell marketing services, I go to the company and I say, hey, I will get you 10 customers and you only pay me if you get those 10 customers. What did I just do? It's kind of the same product same product, but I just framed it in a different way for the customer that really alleviates the risk and gives them exactly what they want. If you were a customer, what would you want? Somebody coming to you selling social media that you don't know will get you customers, or some guy coming to you saying, hey, I will get you customers and you only pay for those customers? You're probably going to choose the latter. A business pivot, this is really where you just completely switch it up and you go a completely different direction. It's very risky. The opportunity can be tenfold, or it can put you out of business. A message pivot is something where it's just changing the marketing of our product. What do I mean by that? Say, looking at like a marketing pivot would be more along the lines of like maybe a Dr. Pepper. Their marketing pivot is like, okay, instead of like saying, great tasting pop, we'll say it's like, quenches your thirst and helps you study longer. That would be a messaging pivot where it's not, there's a little bit of risk, there's some opportunity behind it. But I will tell you, understand that whoever has the clearest message inside of business always wins. If you overcomplicate, the key of business is dumbing things down, and whoever can just get things across the most clearest and quickest, you're going to have way more success. So real quick plug on what I would suggest doing is reading Building the Story Brand by Don Miller. Great book. And then an audience pivot, again, maybe you're kind of just going through this audience and you found out they don't really have the disposable income to pay for your product. Maybe you're better off, going all in on a product, on an audience who can afford your product. These are just ways for you to kind of pivot inside your business without actually pivoting your whole entire business model or concept. All right. So now this is the stage of growth. We talked about the product market fit. Once we have product market fit, now it's about scaling it. And scaling it is really by just dumping fuel on the fire, getting more people by buying your product, getting the marketing going. So that's the next stage in your growth once you have product market fit. So what are some of the strategies? We talked about customer feedback. Look at the lean startup method. This is a great method where it's just like, hey, we're getting a product, we're fixing it, launching it, fixing it again, launching it again, and then that's how we kind of find the right product. But again, inside your company, you need to build a culture of customer centricity. Apple does this so great. DoorDash recently DoorDash is making all of their employees deliver food on the weekends to just really kind of really dive into the product. So you really need to be customer centric. So, what is an example of bad product fit? Well, there's tons of them out there, but this is one of my favorite. And the reason why I say this is my favorite, I don't know out of so many of us here today who knows what this product actually is. But this is called the Power Glove for the Nintendo. Why this is super important is because the Power Glove was one of the first products to actually do a placement inside of a movie. So Nintendo paid a ton of money to a movie company to kind of to play this, to kind of do a spotlight on it. I'm gonna play the commercial just to kind of see, so you can kind of see how cool it is. I know it's hard to hear, but that's kind of the gist of it. Basically, what they did is they took the video game controller and they made it into a really cool glove. And I don't know about you, if I was 12 or 13 and I saw that commercial or inside that, I would want that thing. But here's what they didn't tell you. It was one of the biggest flops in Nintendo's history. And the reason being was because the Power Glove, just for lack of a better term, sucked. It didn't connect very well to the console. It was really hard to work. It made playing video games super difficult, and it was one of the worst products out there. It's still a collector's item because a lot of people like to buy it now. But this is a good example of like trying to build a better mousetrap, but you missed the mark and you didn't build a better mousetrap. You actually built a worse mousetrap. So that's the idea of a product market fit. This next one is one of my all-time favorites. This is an actual company that, this was a Facebook ad I came across a couple years ago, and it was by Flame King. And basically what it was is they created an app where you set your, if any of us who love grilling, I know we're coming out of summer, you put your propane tank on this cylinder and it will let you know when it's out of propane. Because there's nothing worse than having $100 worth of steaks on your grill and you run out of propane. But what this actually teaches you is sometimes you're trying to build a better mousetrap when there's already a mousetrap that's just so much better. And not everything needs to be an app or technology, have a technology component. So what I did when I saw this, I thought it was pretty funny. There were tons of comments in this section. Now, let's look at a company who probably didn't do customer discovery, because this is what was coming up. Hey, I already have an extra full tank handy. Why would I need this? Just go buy a tank from Costco for $29.99 for $30. It has a built-in gauge. What are some of the other ones? My barbecue, my grill already has a scale built into it. Pour warm water on the sides. It will tell you if there's propane in it. I just have 2 tanks on standby. Just keep a backup. This tech component that Flame King was trying to sell was nearly $100. Look at all these other better mousetraps that were already out there. You're telling me they did customer discovery, that they went out there and they said, hey, we know you run out of propane. What's the ways you solve that? And here's a great example. This is a gauge you can buy at Walmart that tells you how much gas you have in your tank for $13. I don't know about you, but I don't need an app on my cell phone to tell me if I'm out of propane or not, when I can just walk outside and look at the grill, this gauge. All right. So another good approach, though, is understanding product market fit, is Airbnb. When Airbnb launched, about a year, what they noticed, they weren't getting a lot of good bookings. And the reason being is because people were uploading some pretty terrible photos of their property. Why would I spend $10,000 on something that it looks like my mom took a photo of it with her flip phone? That's not going to excite me. So what Airbnb decided to do is they said, hey, what if we pay professional photographers to go to these houses and take nice photos of the product for us. They did that. Guess what happened? That little small pivot in their marketing caused them to just really gain a massive amount of customer traction. That is product market fit. But the most and the best product market fit was actually Nintendo. Nintendo started out as a playing card company. But what happened was, after a while, they noticed that there was a bigger market inside of the video game market, and that's when they launched Nintendo. So yes, they got their core roots of doing playing cards, but they saw that there was an emerging market inside of video games, and that's where they went out and really kind of dove deep in and built their company. So thank you very much. That is all I have for you today. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you need help finding product market fit, or you have questions about this seminar, feel free to reach out to me. This is my email address. If you're not a customer or a client of Gannon SBDC, we'd love to work with you. Please go to our website at sbdcgannon.org and click on request for consulting. And I would love for everybody to connect with me on LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn profile. But that's all I have for you. Thanks again, and this was a lot of fun.